Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Licensing and Regulatory Committee. Couple of points. If you're around the table, when you're speaking, please make sure your microphone is on and that it's close to you so that everyone in the room and online can hear you clearly. We're not expecting a fire alarm this evening, so if one goes off, it's not a drill. Members of the public, if you could please exit the way you came in, and members and officers should know where to exit as well. We have a few apologies this evening. We have apologies from councillors Revilius, Smalley, Widdowson and Wilson. All right, okay, so item number 1 on the agenda, I invite committee members to declare any interests in any agenda items on this evening's agenda. No? Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to item 2, which is minutes of the last meeting, which was on the 11th of June. It was a very long meeting, wasn't it? There's just a few points in the minutes where I think there's 3 points in the minutes where I would like to go back and just double check the accuracy of what was said before we approve the minutes. So I would like to defer approval of these minutes until the next meeting, if members are okay with that. I'm seeing nods. Okay, thank you. So we'll come back to those minutes. Just double check some items of accuracy and come back to that at the next meeting. Thank you, everybody. Agenda item 3 is public participation. We've got a few members of the public with us today to come and speak. So I will start by inviting Andrea Piet, I hope I've got your name right there, to come up to the table. If you just come and join us here, there's a microphone in front of you. There's a button in the middle that says mic. If you press that, a light should come on. And then you've got up to 3 minutes to address the committee, and you just start whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just before I start, I just wanted to ask one question. I'm going to be referring to a specific document while I speak today, and I brought copies of the document. Is it helpful to distribute it, or is it best not to? I think that you do actually have a copy submitted as a written submission for this meeting.
We can't accept any documents in the room because everything has to be published for everyone to be able to see it. But Absolutely. If it's is it the document that was published in the agenda supplement?
I'm not sure if you mean in the agenda supplement. It was submitted by Dan Zoklin, who was unable to attend this meeting, as a written submission.
Then yes, yeah, everyone on the committee's received it and read that. So yeah, good.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, elected members. My name is Andrea Piet. I am involved in 2 street trading companies. One is a consent holder and another is a salaried manager. I'm here in response to the proposed street trading policy that was under public consultation this summer, and to look for your support, as this policy remains a significant and ongoing concern. The necessity of the policy is obvious, but it was a horrible shock to find that, as written, it threatens the existence of street trading in York. Although we are not always viewed this way, the street traders represent independent, legitimate businesses that have long been part of York's economy and community. We are year-round concerns with year-round local commitments to our facilities, suppliers, and staff. However, the proposed policy treats us as seasonal temporary events companies, and while such companies contribute to seasonal experiences and the economy, they do not contribute or hold obligations in the city when their short-term contracts are complete. They are here for weeks, and our companies have been here for years. We should not be judged and governed by the same parameters. Therefore, I propose the Street Traders Charter to promote and safeguard street trading activities in a way that benefits businesses, the City of York, and the community. We look to the Council to commit to 3 key aspects that all businesses need to operate successfully. 1 is the guaranteed right to trade. This is the most important issue on which we need your clear support. Street trading businesses in York are based on a boom and bust cycle. The busiest periods, the holidays, allow us to survive through the rest of the year and uphold our local commitments. I'd like to note that this business model predates Make It York and its events. It is, in fact, the holidays themselves, paired with York's heritage, that enable all city centre businesses to benefit at these times. To ensure the pitches remain accessible all year round, we also propose an official map of street trading pitches to be published on the Council website. 2, quarterly meetings between the licensing department and street traders. This will ensure open communication and efficient problem solving, including the institution of procedures to guarantee an ethical and neutral grievance process. And 3rd, the extension of trading permits to 2 years. This would allow for greater stability and long-term planning. We would like the security to be able to invest meaningfully in our businesses. It is clear that the relationship between traders and councils Council must be collaborative and mutually beneficial. We have also included a list of ways that traders can support Council's ambitious 4-year plan and the climate change strategy to promote more sustainable business practices. While the policy is still in early stages of development, we are left in limbo, wondering for the safety of our businesses. I implore you to support your local independent businesses by approving this charter and allowing York Street Traders to work with the City of York Council to develop a street trading policy that strengthens and improves the street trading scheme and serves the interests of the city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak to us this evening. The next speaker is Tom Jackson. Are you able to come to the table? And again, just make sure the microphone's on before you start speaking, and then start with whenever you're ready, and you've got up to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, councillors, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm Tom Jackson, and I'm here to ask you to show your support for the street traders in York. I want to thank those of you who have already pushed to extend our licences to March 2025. Without that support, we would now have no licence and potentially no business. Unfortunately, our livelihoods continue to be on trial, with the next draft discussion set for February 2025. My parents started this business in 1981 with a small potato wagon, which they grew into a successful family-run venture across the city. We're a success story of York and the council street trading scheme, and we've always offered excellent service to residents and visitors, supported local suppliers, and provided employment for hundreds of people over the years. We believe we're an asset to this city. The draft policy, however, threatened all of this. Withholding trade during peak seasons would break us, leading to layoffs and the loss of something that makes York so special. No city centre business could survive on those terms. For my family, this business represents 100% of our income. We've got a mortgage to pay, we've got a 3-year-old to support, and we've got a baby due in December, and the stress that we've endured over the past 5 months has been unimaginable. We wake up thinking about this and we go to sleep worrying about it. And we desperately just need your help and the council's protection. The policy is still being written and the threat of similar measures remain. This is why we're asking you to adopt the street trading charter. The charter asks for nothing special, just security for our families and our staff. We believe you've got the power to secure our future and bring the stability that we so desperately need. And after 40 years of total dedication to this city, I hope you'd agree that it's something that we also deserve. We've always been willing to work with the council. In the charter, we've shown how we are prepared to contribute to the council's ambitious 4-year plan and climate change strategy. For example, we'd like to sign up to the Good Business Charter and work to instill more progressive environmental commitments. We've got public support with our petition gathering 2,000 signatures. We also have the backing of Labour's Rachel Maskell MP, in line with Labour's clear desire to allow small independent businesses to thrive. But we need you to act on this support. So please help us. Please show the council's clear desire to keep street trading businesses alive. Please show that the council is proud of the decades-old tradition of street trading that has benefited York's economy, its residents, and the families you, the council, represent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak to us this evening. We can't discuss the street trading policy in this meeting because well, there's laws about it needing to be published in advance and that sort of thing, but I'll get back in touch with you outside of this meeting. Okay, our third and final speaker is joining us remotely. Flick Williams, can you hear us?
Yes, good evening.
Great, thank you very much for joining us. Start whenever you're ready. You've got up to 3 minutes. Thank you.
I welcome this information-rich report on where we currently are with taxi provision, both private hire and Hackney carriage licences. I was also encouraged to read the report on enforcement actions. The prosecutions of drivers illegally applying for trade is very welcome, as it sends a clear message to the trade that this is what they can expect if they're caught operating in this way. Enforcement actions give the travelling public greater confidence when booking or taking a taxi of either type. However, it is disappointing that there are still 3 vacant CVs when we were originally assured that all 11 would be on the road by last March. I concur that it is inappropriate to conduct a further unmet demand survey before they are on the road in order to take a snapshot of the situation under real market conditions. So I trust they will be licensed and deployed as soon as possible, certainly within the next 6 months, to enable the next survey to take place in February 2025. I believe we really cannot afford to delay it any longer, as it will give a picture of demand as it is affected by the cessation of the dial-a-ride service, which was still operational at the time of the last survey. As the executive has still not made a determination on the recommendations regarding community transport from scrutiny, any solution to this is likely to be a way off still. This summer, I was made aware of a group including a wheelchair user who wished to make a return journey to Ripon from York. Fully aware it would be expensive, needing to pay waiting time, they were completely unable to find any taxi of either type willing to take the work. Now we are part of the combined authority, disabled campaigners joined forces to improve the availability of WAV taxis across the whole of North Yorkshire. I myself undertook 2 longer journeys in March and April by car service that I could not do by train. One, a Lincolnshire town not served by the rail network, and the other to Lancaster during the weekend of Queen Street road closures to avoid the stress of unknown levels of disruption. Both only made possible by the acquisition of a foldable power wheelchair and the ability to transfer. So it would be interesting to learn from the next unmet demand survey if other disabled people have resorted to using executive car services as a substitute for WAV taxis not being available for longer journeys. Finally, I do recognise and appreciate the hard work of the taxi licensing officer, but I respectfully ask that 2 years on from this authority adopting the social model of disability, we could start seeing reports that use language consistent with that policy. The terms used should be disabled people, disabled passengers, etc. And these reports lapse back into use of person first language. Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak to us today. That is all of the public participation. So we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is number 4, which is an update report of information.
Can I have a point of order, Chair?
Yeah.
On a point of order, Chair, could I just ask about street traders' rights? And if there is a possibility for the committee to be updated in some very brief, small way by an officer or by yourself, Chair, if you're aware, because we've had public participation and the Charter of Street Traders' Rights published on the agenda. I'm really supportive of this, and I feel like it'd be good for the public to know where we're up to. A lot of traders' rights have been left in limbo for a number of years now, and I just feel, as we've had public participation, it'd be nice to find out before just moving on.
I mean, we can't discuss it at this meeting because it hasn't been published in advance, and so other members of the public haven't had the opportunity to read anything and also register to speak or watch this meeting, etc. You know, there's laws about publishing a week in advance. There are ongoing meetings and discussions about the policy, which isn't ready to be published yet. I will update members after this meeting.
Yeah.
And get back in touch with street traders who I have been in touch with as well about it.
Okay, I appreciate that as an action, Chair, for you to get back in touch with street traders. I'd also just like it noted on the agenda that I support the Charter and really thankful to hear from the street traders. Okay.
Okay, so agenda item 4, I'll ask.
Sorry.
Oh.
If Councillor Myers asks these questions well under the forward plan, you might be able to ask for some things there.
Yeah, appreciated.
Councillor Waters, did you have your hand up?
It's an awful lot of fuss to say that's exactly what I was going to say, and I've just turned to the forward plan, so.
All right, thank you. Right, I'll ask officers to introduce their report at agenda item 4.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My name's David Cowley. I'm the taxi licensing manager for City of York Council. Agenda item 4 is to advise members of the current situation in relation to the new Hackney Carriage vehicle licences. As you recall, 2 reports have been previous to this committee, one on the 7th of June 2022, after we'd undertaken an unmet demand survey, which recommended that members submit to the executive to make available 9 new Hackney Carriage vehicle licences. That was 2 that had not been renewed, plus 7 that was indicated from the unmet demand survey at the time. That resolution was submitted and approved on 28th of July. In that process, another licence became a vehicle, which made it in total 10 vehicle licences that were out and available for drivers or proprietors to submit form applications for. A second report came to committee on the 10th of October, and the report asked for officers to approve a little bit of an acceleration to the current waiting list for Hackney Carriage vehicle licences. Officers undertook that recommendation from members, and as a result of that, we ended up with 22 positive expressions of interest for Hackney Carriage vehicle licences. That's since increased to 34 expressions of interests. We've progressed through that list in turn. There has been a number of applicants from that have withdrawn from the process, which has led to the delays of the implementation of all new licenses. Today, we still have a number of applicants on that list, and we have in circulation at the moment 8 new accessible Hackney Carriage vehicle licenses and vehicles. They're in operation, and there are 3 more that are currently being allocated to applicants, and we're hoping to they are out for operation within the next 6 months. However, we are getting at the moment some of them which are coming back after they've made an application, which has delayed that process. There's still 5 individuals remaining on the list, and at the end of the allocation process, we'll be contacting everybody on the waiting list to reevaluate their position. And therefore, I submit this report for consideration.
No, I've nothing to add to what David said. Thank you.
Okay, this is an update report for our information. So before we note it and move on to the next agenda item, does anybody have any questions? Yeah, Councillor Knight.
Thank you. Just a quick question. I'm just wondering if we've got any understanding of what leads to people withdrawing. Is it because it's such a lengthy process and they've decided to do something else, or are there other factors? Do we know? It'd be good to understand.
I think there's been other factors involved in it. I think there has been a number of vehicles which are already allocated out there, saloon type vehicles which have changed,
Right.
Or being transferred. So I think some of the applicants have actually looked for an easier option to put in. However, we still have a good expression of interest from the 5 that are still remaining on that list.
Councillor Mason.
Thanks. I guess, Dave, that cash is a big issue, is it, in terms of this must be a very expensive investment for people? And I just wondered if there's any schemes or any potential things coming forward, any money from the mayor or anything that might be used to encourage people to take these up?
There has been a number of schemes. There's been 2 schemes available, one from City of York Council in relation to cleaner vehicles. The scheme which was available, the money has been allocated from that. There's still another scheme available from central government, which is called the plug-in taxi grant, so that anybody can apply for that if they're actually putting a plug-in taxi on. And we are looking at other funding when it becomes available in relation to it. But yes, some applicants have withdrawn because of the financial side of it.
Any other questions from, yeah, Councillor Cuthbertson?
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for being late. It's out of my control. It's not a question, just a comment that my wife and I had a ride in one of the large taxis of this kind, and space-wise, it was very good. But not only that, additional facilities were appeared to be easily accessible to any user. And the driver in our conversation just happened to mention that he'd taken a course in how to operate the vehicle to the benefit of users who had some kind of disability, which I thought was very interesting, quite positive. I just want to say, without expressing any other interest, I endorse these vehicles for use in the city.
Thank you. Any other questions from any committee members? Okay, well, then thank you for the report and thank you for the work that's gone into trying to get as many wheelchair accessible vehicles on the road as possible. We'll move on to agenda item 5, which is about an unmet demand survey. So again, I'll ask officers to introduce the report, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and members. This report invites officers to, invites members to instruct officers on the council's approach to the Hackney Carriage Unmet Demand Survey. Given that there are 3 Hackney Carriage vehicle licences still available, then the best practice guidance now recommends that unmet demand surveys are conducted every 5 years. Officers do recommend option 2 within this report. The provisions within section 16 of the Transport Act of 1985 allow local authorities to set quantity restrictions on the number of licences issued in relation to Hackney Carriage vehicles, but only if they're satisfied that there's no unmet demand for that, for taxi services within the area. The Department of Transport Best Practice Guidance, which was initially issued in March 2010, and a further update in 17th of November 2013, does advise local authorities not to impose quality restrictions as their best practice. However, the best practice guidance of 2010 says that where quality restrictions are in place, that an unmet demand survey should be conducted at least every 5 years. Every 3 years. As the council's existing policy, taxi licensing policy, is based on this. It also states that the council will conduct this unmet demand survey every 3 years in our taxi licensing policy. However, there's been a recent update in 2023 from the guidance which recommends that this time period is extended to every 5 years. Our last unmet demand survey was completed in February 2022. We currently restrict Hackney Carriage vehicles to 190, of which 55 of those are wheelchair accessible. There are still 3 of those, as per this report, that are unallocated, which are being in the process. Members are invited to consider for the following options in relation to this report. Continue the current position as stated in the existing taxi licensing policy and undertake the unmet demand survey in February 2025, which will be 3 years from the last one. Finalise and issue the last 3 outstanding Hackney Carriage vehicle licences before undertaking the demand survey, or undertake the unmet demand survey in accordance with the new best practice guidance, which will be February 2027.
Thank you very much. So those options, as just read out, they are in the papers at the bottom of page 22 and the top of page 23. Before we discuss those options, does anybody have any questions for officers? Yes, Councillor Nichols?
Yeah, you say you've got to use outside experts to do the survey. How long do they need and how busy are they? So we can say we'd like to do it by the end of April, but they say, sorry, boys, it's November.
Yeah, we've already been in contact with them at the moment, and it would be a 2-month leading period approximately.
Any other questions? Councillor Cuthbertson?
Thank you, Chair. May I ask if in option 2, the 3 outstanding Hackney Carriage vehicle licences are not finalised before the date of the next unmet demand survey, which we said we'd carry out in the policy? What are we going to do? Wait for finalisation or carry out the survey?
We would probably comply with the policy at that point and bring it back to members to make a determination whether they want to carry out the policy in accordance with the February guidance.
Any other questions? Okay, in that case, would anybody like to propose any of the options? Councillor Kilbane?
Yeah, happy to propose option 2. I think it does make sense, doesn't it, to try and get those licenses out the door so that we can see what the true market conditions are. Taking on board Councillor Cuthbertson's concerns, if we don't do that, what do we do? I think we just have to make that decision at that time. But let's be optimistic, and we've done a good job so far, especially since we've changed the system to give more people the option of taking up one of these plates. So let's go with 2, I think.
Would anybody like to second that or propose something different or discuss anything? So seconded by Councillor Mason. Was that what you had your hand up for as well? Yeah, okay. Any debate or discussion on that? Everybody happy to take a vote? Okay, so option 2 has been proposed and seconded, which is to finalise and issue the 3 outstanding Hackney Carriage vehicle licences before undertaking a demand survey. By show of hands, can I see all those in favour? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. So we will move on to the next agenda item. Agenda item 6, which is an enforcement action update report. I'll ask officers to introduce it for us.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'll take this one. I'm Matt Boxall, Head of Public Protection. So this report is a periodic update on enforcement activity relevant to this committee. The period for the report is the 1st of April 23 to the 31st of March this year 24. In summary, it details enforcement activity in relation to taxis, firstly. It goes through, in particular, the out-of-hours checks on drivers and vehicles. There are details of revocations and suspensions, and details of 2 prosecutions for vehicles applying for hire. These were operations undertaken at York Racecourse. It's also noted that there have been 13 fixed penalty tickets issued to vehicles parked on ranks. In other activity, you'll see that officers have conducted underage test purchasing visits to off licences and similar places. 8 places visited. There was 1 sale of a vape to a 14-year-old child. Officers have also seized over 200 illegal tobacco products and over 1,000 illegal vapes in that last year. They're the brief highlights. The rest is in the report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, does anybody have any questions about the information in this report? Councillor Mason?
Sorry. Number 7 says about 79 had kind of defect notices, but I couldn't see the total figure. Might be my eyes, but I just wondered how many had gone through that process to get, like, what was the total number that had been stopped and gone to the test centre to be checked?
Dave, can you help with this one? One moment, Councillor. I think it's in the report. One moment.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because it talked about something else above that. I wasn't sure if there was then a subset that went for this more thorough inspection, and then obviously 79 had defects.
Yeah, councillor, there was 187 vehicles checked. That was at the roadside and through the inspection process. So those 70, what was it, 79, did you say?
Yeah.
79 of the vehicles out of the 187 were issued with the rectification notices.
And
defects.
And that's the ones that have gone to Hazel Court for a full inspection. So the whole 100 and something all went to Hazel Court for a full inspection.
No, that's both combined,
okay.
Roadside and Hazel Court.
Okay. So quite a high proportion. Is that higher than you would have expected? It feels quite high.
I think there can be minor defects with vehicles. So the rectification can be something such as a number plate light out or a minor defect. The major ones are the ones where the vehicle is suspended that causes concern.
You put about the 2 that would prosecute for applying for hire. I presume they then lose their licence.
Yeah, I can confirm that those drivers have gone through the process in relation to Bradford. One of the drivers has currently lost his licence, and the other one is at the process there. The Bradford Council are taking action at the moment, but there's legal proceedings taking place.
Sorry, I've got a few. And maybe one for you more, Matt, this one, 12. I just wonder why York Bid were the one kind of leading all the enforcement activity, given they're kind of a business organisation, private business organisation, opposed to a kind of enforcement agency. I know they obviously have the bid rangers, but even still, they're using kind of police powers.
Is this for the e-ball
Multi-agency,
weekend? Yeah, they coordinate, but they run a safe group and with all enforcement partners, and it is through that is the natural place for all enforcement partners to get together and undertake this activity. So
how does that sit with things like Safer York? And just feels like it's a bit muddy about who's doing what.
Well, it's an opportunity for enforcement partners to get together and organise these things. So it's more of a conduit for enforcement partners to develop these days of action rather than the bid itself organising it. Although their street rangers are very much part of these days of action. Yeah, absolutely. They do play a vital role, both organising and participating.
Nearly there. The next one was just about the peddler that was being prosecuted and then it failed for selling the vape. I just wondered what the reason was for the prosecution failing, if we knew.
It was to do with the way the case was presented. We'd over-redacted the names of the children, and therefore, when we take these cases to court, we redact the names of the children, and the district judge but we'd gone a bit too far with that, and wouldn't allow the case to proceed on that basis.
And last one, obviously this covers a lot of different things we license. One thing it doesn't mention is street traders, and I just wondered if that means that kind of we're content in terms of how that's operating. There's no mention of any enforcement action with any street traders.
So street traders, in the sense of the street traders in town, all is in order with that. We do a bit more work up at the racecourse, particularly with the buyers and sellers of tickets up there. We're checking that they've got the relevant permissions and they work on peddlers' licenses, so they can trade as they are trading.
Super, thank you. That's all.
Any other questions? Yeah, Councillor Nichols?
Just from understanding, the last meeting when we were discussing, there's 104 complaints listed against taxi drivers. Is that 13 come from that 104?
Sorry, just
so the last licensing meeting with the debate about Uber, and there was a list of complaints provided. There was 104 complaints. Are these 13 as the outcome of those 104 complaints, or is that these 13 a separate thing from the 104 complaints you gave at the last meeting?
It was a different time period. That's why the numbers differ. I don't know what the what's the 13? Sorry,
You've got 13 on tonight's report of revoked licenses.
Oh, yeah.
But the last one, it went from the 19th of April 23 to the 4th of March 24.
Yeah.
There's 104 complaints.
Yeah.
Those 104 complaints have led to 13 serious revokes.
Not all the revocations have come from complaints. Some of them come from information by West Yorkshire or North Yorkshire Police under their notifiable occupation scheme. Some of them come from the reports from the drivers themselves, and others come from us checking various processes within our sort of criteria, such as DVLA licenses for points and things like that.
I think that's where the main discrepancy will come, but some of this stuff we find ourselves rather than it comes into us from partners or from the public. I've caught up with it.
So the 13 you've been proactive. The 104 were people complaining about whatever they complained about. So the 104 complaints, what's the process for those then? Because some of those were quite serious, sexual conduct, etc. How are they dealt with? Because none of those appear out of these. I can see there's no sexual misconduct. So where do they go? Somebody complains about sexual misconduct of a taxi driver. Does that refer to the police, or is it?
There's some in the revocation list which is produced on Appendix 1. So Agenda Item 6, Appendix 1. They're the details of revoked licenses.
Right, but the 104, the thing that concerned me was there was some serious allegations in there, but I don't know where they go.
Oh, from the previous report?
Yeah.
Some of those complaints would have been referred back to the other authorities. Because at that time, the complaints in relation to the operator, which we were talking about, were from outside area drivers.
Right.
These are our drivers within York.
So, no, the 104 was supposedly our drivers. Because there was split, the last bit you split into two: complaints about Uber drivers and complaints about York licenses. And my worry was there was some quite serious, but I don't know what the route is, that if somebody makes a complaint that appears to be a criminal offence, I presume, I might be wrong, do you refer that to the police, or do you pick it up and it goes under the revoked bit?
We would pick that up as well as the police. So we would look at the fit and proper side of any of that that came into us, as well as any criminal case that was running with the police.
Right. Thanks.
Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Chair. Given that you've mentioned about test purchases and given the time of year that we're now rushing into autumn, will you give us reassurance that you'll be carrying out test purchases into firework purchases as you've done in the past? And I just hope you're given the resources to do this properly.
Absolutely, yep. So the firework inspections include advice about avoiding illegal sales, and then we follow up as we do with test purchases to check that what we're being told, other checks that are in place are actually in place. So it is intended to go fireworks, and also this year we're going to look at spray paints as well, because I haven't done spray paints for a while.
Any other questions from any committee members? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for the report and for all the public protection enforcement work that's been going on. The next agenda item, number 7, is urgent business. I haven't got any urgent business as stipulated in the Local Government Act. And the final agenda item is, well, it's on the agenda as forward plan. It isn't really a forward plan as such, but it's an indication for us as a committee and for the public of what officers are working on and what sort of things will be coming to licensing committee in the next few months. Any questions or discussion on anything? Yeah, Councillor Myers.
Thank you, Chair. Could we add street traders? The process that's going through, consultation finishing, and then the draft policy that's been drafted. Can licensing feed into that before it's published next year? And so, with that in mind, can we put it on the forward plan?
Say 8th of October.
Good idea.
Might have to ask officers what's possible in terms of that. We haven't got the relevant officer here.
Leslie Cook is leading on it, but I can give a few lines now if it would help as to where we've got to. So obviously we drafted a draft policy. It was a draft put out for consultation, and the point of consultation is to get the views in, which we did, and it's fair to say there were very diverging views. And we're grateful for all that feedback. As I say, that is the point of the consultation, to seek views. There was particularly divergent views on the extent to which Make It York should be involved in the in the future of street trading. We need to take all that away and come up with a policy for you. There's as I said, there's so many views. There's lots to factor in all of that. It's going to take a bit of time, and this is not a statutory policy that you've to consider. Some of these other things that are coming up on the list are statutory that we really must get in. So with all that coming into play, we do need a bit more time before we can come up with a street trading consent policy that we can put to you. That's why it's been put to February, at least provisionally in the note. So I don't know if that helps. but that's the explanation as to where we've got to.
Yeah, councillor Clark.
Thanks, Chair. Just following up on what's previously been said, thanks for that update, but how would the traders present their charter and how would that become part of that consultation and that process?
Well, obviously, the first we've seen of the charter is what Kane changed.
Sure, but from this point onwards,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
would
So
they...
we need to have a look at that and what the implications are of that, and yeah, we are still in the draft stage, so the information like that we're
So it can have a role in that process, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that is one view, and there are, as I alluded to, diverging views within the feedback that we've received as to how we should proceed. So you'll need all of that in the mix.
All right, thanks.
Councillor Waters.
So is it worth giving reassurance to the people that spoke tonight that nothing will be decided until February, and that will give them ample opportunity to come to this committee again and make representations?
Yeah, that's part of the purpose of having this like kind of indication of what's coming up, is for the benefit of the public as well as us as committee members to know what's being worked on, and yeah, so that people know what's happening, what's being worked on, and can input.
It's just a shame we couldn't physically ask them if that provided them with suitable reassurance.
We'll be in touch at the meeting and have that conversation, so. Councillor Mason.
Thanks. I suppose my concern again is, and I suppose it was, you know, we were told this policy would come in September, and that's why we had a 6-month extension. And then we reflected on it and thought, actually, we need to give them more stability for trading. The risk is obviously now the licenses until the new year, or just into the new year. We don't look at this again till February, maybe earlier if we're lucky, but like you said, it's not statutory, it's not the priority. How do we stop us getting to the point again where we end up having to make that kind of knee-jerk reaction and put them in a position where they've got no security apart from a kind of 6 weeks or something?
The licenses, the original plan, the original hope was to be able to have the new policy come to this committee in September based on the feedback from the public and from councillors. That wasn't possible, so the licenses have been extended for 6 months to give that extra reassurance, to that more notice to street traders, and to give councillors more time to input and shape the policy and to take the feedback on board from the public and street traders. It will come to committee and then full council when it's ready. Well, you know, I think personally my view is that it should be good rather than rushed, and we will get it ready. Officers will have it ready as soon as it's possible for it to be ready, and then we will process it through the procedure with us, and it will all, you know, as much as possible, it will be in public. Street traders will have the opportunity to come and speak in public, and we'll communicate with them as much as possible. And
I know, I get that. I think that's the right way to do it, but I think at the same point, again, if we do this in February, it's not going to go to the Budget Council meeting, I think, so probably maybe April, March. We get to the same point where their licenses are going to expire in April, and I just think we need to be thinking, and, you know, I'm not saying we need to give the answer now, but I think officers need to be thinking about how do we give them more stability than just saying, oh, here's the policy, we've approved it in March, and now, you know, your license, you've already applied to renew, you don't want to because of the conditions, or it, you know, it just doesn't work. It just feels again like it's all just very short notice. So I think looking, you know, trying to look at the same thing we've done again, even if it's another 6 months from when we think we're going to look at this, you know, the same reason we did it last time. I think we should do that again. But again, don't expect an answer, but just to be considered.
it depends what changes need to be made, what officer the capacity there is to make those changes, what further input or consultation is needed. We don't know exactly how long it will take. On this, you know, in these papers that we're looking at now, this is an indication of, but it's not set in stone, and we'll do the best we can. Yeah, is that all right? Okay. Is there anything else? Oh, yeah, Councillor Myers.
Just on that, I mean, I agree with all that's been said, and agree that we need to do it right, but could the committee just have a very brief update formally on the work plan, on the forward plan before Christmas? You know, we're looking at a provisional policy in February, but is there any information that we could discuss as a committee before that work takes place, either October or November, just to get a snapshot of what the consultation looked like, what were the key themes, so the committee can feed into it at that point.
If that's what members would like, then we can bring a report. But I don't know how much further down the road we'll be in October on, and it's not because we don't want to, but it's because we've got these, other things that must come to committee, all of which, in themselves require some work, consultation, particularly the Licensing Act policy and the Gambling Act policy. It's quite a busy schedule for officers in that time period. That's why we've put it to February. That gives us the best chance of, of bringing something different to what you've already heard. But if you want an update on a more formal update on where we've got to, rather than what I've just said, then I can do that.
Also, I think that everything that is currently planned for the agenda for October's meeting and November's meeting, they're already quite substantial agenda items that could take quite a long time. And I'm conscious that, long meetings are not preferable.
Look, I'm easy for long meetings when they're important items, so that would be my view. But the officer's time in getting something together is a concern, of course, which is why I'd just ask for the smallest of reports so that we still have an opportunity to feed in. The public still is kept on board with what's going on. Even if you just take it away from the meeting to discuss whether that's possible, Chair, and work it out, that's all from me.
Very happy to do that. And sorry, Councillor Nichols just had his hand up first, and I'll come to you, Councillor Mason.
Without giving extra work, is it what Matt gave us tonight? Could we not just put it on the agenda and Matt just gives a verbal update without having to write a report? Because I presume writing a report takes the time. But if it takes, it's in your head, you're just not going to write it on a piece of paper, but you can tell us, look, we've been really busy. This has not been happening. It looks like February's been optimistic. At least we know in October that February or in November, it's looking optimistic. Because as you rightly say, you don't know what you're going to face. And it's much easier to not say, build a report. It's just not happening. We're too busy with statutory. We can make a decision, say, look, February's optimistic. Let's put another 6 months on and not put any pressure on anybody then.
I think I don't think the report will be particularly time consuming to write, ironically. It's because I'm not sure just how much more there will have taken place because of what else is coming through the system. It's just the timing is unfortunate. And this policy has got so many diverging views. There's quite a bit to unpick from what we've received. So it's just that time element, and particularly given that we're in October, November, there's not a lot of time to get to do much more with it between now and when a report will be prepared for you. So it will be a very short report, and it might not give much more than what I've said. But if that's what you'd like, then I'm quite happy to do it. It's not a problem.
Councillor Mason?
I think that'd be good, and I think that would then give us a bit of a timescale in that report of which full council you're expected to go to, when licenses end, and then at that point, we're 3 months out, we can look and say, actually, we do need to think about extending the traders. I think one thing as well that would be interesting to look at in that report is what's this kind of quasi-legal position with Make It Your, because I think that's probably something that didn't come out in the consultation from a point of view of being well explained for members to understand. What there's another organisation saying, oh, we want to have an involvement in that space. But clearly there feels like there's some unique right that Make It York feels like it's part of its SLA or whatever to manage those spaces. Just I think something to unpick that a bit for members would be useful before we then get to the draft report.
Okay, I can't see any other hands. So I've got some things to take away there, and I think made a note of that. So that's everything on the agenda for this meeting. Thank you everybody for your time. Have a good evening. Thanks very much.